Guys, it's n.e.w.t.s time. I'm about to head into work, so I'll probably have to wait until after work to do much reading. But I did last night start My Name is Asher Lev. I just really wanted to read, but obviously I didn't want to start a whole new book just to start one, so I just read about 40 pages of this. Really enjoying it so far. I found Asher Lev to be a really interesting character. And excited to continue it. Also on the way to work, just barely, I was listening to A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, and I'm enjoying that. I do think it was a good idea to listen to the audiobook to force me to push past the beginning so I could get back into the story, and I am really liking it. I'm not far enough to really have a solid idea of how I feel, but I do really like it at least. So since this is a month-long vlog, I'm not going to be updating you super regularly, multiple times a day or anything like that, because I don't want this to be 2 hours at the end. But I will update you later today because I have a few adjustments I made to my TBR, so I'll want to show you those. But until then, oh good, there's a person. I love that. Well, I'm gonna go, so I will talk to you later. Hey guys, so is it the same day that I filmed my intro and said I was going to update you later in the day? No, it's not. It's actually the night of the next night, but it's fine. Anyway, yes, it is August 2nd, a Friday. I keep thinking it's Saturday, it's driving me crazy, but anyway, it's Friday. I had the day off work today, so I was able to get a good amount of reading done. Unfortunately, fortunately, I don't know, I also went a couple hours away to help with my mom to go pick up my brother, who was staying with our aunt and uncle this week, and since it was 2 hours there, it was also 2 hours back, so it was a good chunk of my day, but I still read in the car. Also, we're just going to ignore that my bed is a disaster because I didn't make it today. Anyway, I have made quite a bit of progress in My Name is Asher Lev. I am on page 214 out of 350, so pretty much just about done. I think I'm gonna try to finish it tonight because the Dearathon, if you follow them on Twitter, that page on Twitter, basically how it works, it's run by Little Book Owl and I forgot who the other person is. Basically every once in a while they'll just have a random readathon and they'll just be like, okay, tonight we're gonna have a 24-hour readathon if you can participate, and it's super fun. It's kind of nice to just be able to be like, oh yeah, I can do it, and then or no, I can't, and it's just random, but it's fairly often, and they're doing a 48-hour one starting at midnight tonight. Obviously, I'm in a different time zone than them, but I'm still just going to do it based on where I am. I should be able to finish this, hopefully. If not tonight, then at least by tomorrow for sure. I also have made a little bit of progress in A Torch Against the Night. I've listened to about 3 hours of it, so not a ton, but still making good progress in that. And then the thing I mentioned earlier that I wanted to give you an update on some changes I've made to my TBR for the n.e.w.t.s. So because it's also the Classicsathon, I decided I really wanted to read more classics. I only had one on my TBR technically, and so I mean technically My Name is Asher Lev could count as a classic. It's just not quite 50 years old, which is kind of my range, so it's an iffy one. It's borderline classic. I wanted to have one that I was like, yes, this is definitely a classic to me. And so I switched. There were a lot of books on my TBR that either were one of the only ones that matched the prompt, or I need to read them for the sake of other goals I've set for myself. And so the only one I could change was the challenge to get an E in, I believe, Defense Against the Dark Arts. No, not Defense Against the Dark Arts. I think it was for History of Magic is what it was for. I needed to read a book with a map in it, and for that one, all of Thomas Hardy's books have maps in them. It's all the same map, but they all have it in them, and so I'm going to be reading Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy. It's a super short one. It's one of his earlier works, so it sounds like one of his most lighthearted books, which means it's probably easier to fly through. Plus, like I said, it's fairly short and it has a map in it. So going to be reading that. Also, I have a couple books that I'll show you. Let me grab them. I have a couple books that if I end up finishing the n.e.w.t.s TBR, I kind of just want to focus on the Classicsathon towards the end of the month, if I have time to. If not, it's not a huge deal. I'll just read these probably in September. But the first one is The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. This technically also includes Daisy Miller by Henry James. If I read this, I'll just read The Turn of the Screw. But this book is only like 126 pages for the Turn of the Screw section, and I've heard mixed things about it. Oh, a bookmark just fell out. I've heard mixed things about it. However, it's so short that I'm like, I really want to just get to it. Also, there is a BBC miniseries that has the girl who plays Mary Crawley, if you watch Downton Abbey, in it. And so I'd really like to read this and then be able to watch that if possible. Oh, just move the camera, it's fine. Also, sorry about the mess that's going on. Didn't really put on makeup today. Didn't really care about my hair. Just wearing a comfy dress. So I look so great. It's fine. Anyway, but I also might pick up, speaking of Downton Abbey, I might pick up Below Stairs by Margaret Powell. This is a memoir written by a kitchen maid in the 1920s. Basically is the inspiration for shows like Downton Abbey and Upstairs Downstairs, and with the Downton Abbey movie coming out in September, if you watch Downton Abbey, I don't necessarily need to read this before I watch that because I've like seen all of the Downton Abbey episodes, but I would like to read it around when I see it, just because I'll be in the mood, in that 20s mood, and it's fairly short. So if I'm able to get to this by the end of this month, that would be awesome. If not, just read it in September. Wow. Those are kind of my adjustments to my plans, and we're just gonna stop this clip here because it's already gone on long enough. Hey guys, sorry if you can hear crickets in the background. I am outside because it was a new background and the best place available to me right now. So, but update, it is the 3rd, and I have officially finished my first book for the readathon. My name is Asher Love. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't like a favorite book of all time or anything, but it was really good. I'm still trying to figure out what my feelings are on it because it's one that definitely takes a little bit more thought, and so I'll probably just have to wait to share my full feelings in my wrap-up. But for now, no, I enjoyed it. Apparently someone's walking outside. Hi, Jace. So yeah, I'm still working on A Torch Against the Night. Not loving it, mostly because I didn't like the romance to begin with, like really at all. And I feel like every chapter there's like some mention about the romance. It's cheesy, and it's like these awkward, like they accidentally like get too close and then they have this moment of staring into each other's eyes and whatever, like almost every chapter it feels like. And it's a little obnoxious, and I feel like everything else going on is just kind of like, it feels the same as other fantasy books, so it's nothing unique. Which is unfortunate because I do remember the first one well enough to feel like that one was a little bit more unique, and this one's just become very much the same as others, and I'm not super attached to any of the characters either, which doesn't help. So I was going to start the Joy Luck Club. I was basically going to start with, hold on, I gotta shift this a little bit. I was basically going to start with all the challenges for the A grade in each subject. So the next one I would have read was The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, and I just feel like that one, based on the synopsis, sounds like it's going to be very similar in genre to My Name's Asher Lev, and it's a type of genre, it's very character driven, and so it's not one where it has huge plot twists. It's just kind of like coming of age, seeing their relationship with their family, stuff like that. And it may be different, but it just kind of has that same vibe. And so I don't know if I want to read something like that right after I just read something like that. I at least need one book in between, I feel like. So I decided to pick up instead The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Brontë. I have read the first like 3 chapters of this a few months ago and really enjoyed it. I just was reading it on the Barnes & Noble, look inside thing, so I didn't like read the whole thing. I was just kind of getting a feel for Brontë's writing style because I have never read anything by her, and I wanted to see if it was a book I would actually want, or if I would want to try something different, and I got so sucked in that I read 3 chapters, and then I was at work, so then I had to like clean and stuff like that, so I didn't get to read anymore. But then I did purchase the book, as you can see here, and so I'm going to read this. This is also the longest book on my TBR, so it will probably be smart to try to get it done as soon as possible so that I can be assured that I finished it. Actually, I think Dangerous technically is more pages, but the words on these pages are a lot smaller, and it's a classic, which means it just takes longer, so this is probably the most difficult. Hi. That was my dad. He left his phone out here. Anyway, so yeah, I'm excited to read this. Hopefully I stay in love with it as much as I have started to be, because yeah, I feel like Anne Bronte's writing style so far is very easy to understand. I enjoy her characters a great deal. I haven't read Wuthering Heights or Jane Eyre in a really long time. It was a really long time ago that I read each of those. A little more recent on Jane Eyre, but I feel like I'm already enjoying this more than either of those. But I'm planning on rereading Wuthering Heights in the next couple of months, so we'll see if I still feel that way. So that's the update, and I'll probably come chat again either when I finish Torch Against the Night or Tenant of Wildfell Hall, whichever comes first. So I will see you then. Hey guys, so quick update. I am still working on the Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I've made a good amount of progress, not quite halfway, but I'm only about 50 pages away from the halfway mark. So pretty good. It is currently the 6th of August, Tuesday, and I'm still really loving this. I love the characters. I'm finally getting into a little bit of more of the aspect of the plot that will explain everything that we as the readers have been questioning and wondering about, so that's really fun. I feel like this is definitely possibly going to make my top 5 classics of all time. I have to see how the rest of it goes, but I have very high hopes. I would say it might knock Wuthering Heights off, but it's been so long since I've read Wuthering Heights that I actually plan on rereading it in the next couple of months for a certain event that's coming up, which I'll talk to you about when it's closer. But anyway, I will be rereading that soon, and then we'll see how it compares. But I do really like this. Anyway, I'm also still listening to A Torch Against the Night. I am a little over halfway through it. I am enjoying it more than I did the first half. However, I'm still not sure if I'm going to continue with the series, if it's one I care enough to continue with. I just really don't like the romance, and I feel like it's very prevalent in this one. I also feel like the world has kind of taken a little bit of a cliche turn for me as far as YA fantasy goes, and I feel like some of the politics that are going on and the decisions made by the politicians are really stupid, and I'll explain that more in my wrap-up, and we'll see if it gets fixed or whatever. But anyway, I'm just, and not stupid in like the main characters are like, yeah, that's so dumb. It's like stupid, but nobody's acknowledging that it's dumb. They're just like, oh, that's so brutal. And it is, but it's also dumb. Anyway, so that's my update. I haven't finished anything, obviously. The reason I wanted to do this update was because early tomorrow morning, I'm going to be getting on an airplane with my parents to go to Michigan for a few days. If you don't know, I served a mission for 18 months for my church a while ago, and don't worry if you're like, don't want to hear about the religion, I'm not going to go into that, but I will say that we're just going back to Michigan because that's where I spent those 18 months, and revisiting old haunts of mine, as well as just seeing some of the fun touristy things to do there that I wasn't really able to do while I was there, or doing some things that I was able to do while I was there, but I just would love to go back and see. So because of that, I will not be continuing this vlog during that week. So I'm going to do a separate vlog just for my trip to Michigan. So the next clip you'll see me in after this one will be a week later. Hopefully I'll be able to finish some books on that trip, and I will like it. I just don't want to be doing 2 vlogs at once. So I'm just going to take a break from this vlog for the next few days and just vlog my trip as its own thing, and then yeah, continue. I will link down below, because by the time this vlog goes up, that vlog will already be up. So I will link that down below if you haven't seen it yet and you're curious. But yeah, thought I would just let you know. I will see you. Well, for you guys, it will be like a second. For me, it will be like 10 days. But anyway, see you then. Hey guys, so as I said, I'm going to be talking quietly because my brother's sleeping in the next room, or trying to get to sleep. But I've gotten back from my trip to Michigan, and it was a great trip. Again, I will link my vlog for that down below if you haven't seen it yet. Sorry about the shift in angle, my arm is just already getting tired. So anyway, I did end up finishing 2 books on my trip. The first of which was A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, which I was listening to on audiobook. The audiobook was fine, the narrators were fine. It was a little strange because earlier this year I've listened to a couple other audiobooks, Illumine and I Darken specifically, and the 3 narrators in this participated in those as well, which made it a little interesting since I listened to those so recently, but it was still really good. I feel like it deserves like a 3.5 stars. I think on Goodreads they officially put it in as a 4-star book, just mostly out of friendliness, but I would give it probably more like a 3.5 stars, especially as I've thought a little bit more about it. The first half was just really generic feeling. There wasn't anything super unique about it for me in the first half, which was a shame because I felt like the first book was a little more unique, and that's part of what drew me to it. I also felt like the romance was a lot more heavily discussed in this, and it got really irritating. It felt like every chapter there was something about that. I also found the politics to be a little confusing, and a little, some political decisions that were made to be very unnecessary and a little to the point of ridiculous. Yeah, it was fine. It was entertaining. I definitely think I very well might continue with the series if I'm in the mood. I'm not completely turned off from it, but yeah, it was a little bit disappointing, unfortunately, but that's okay. The ending ended up taking me by surprise. I enjoyed the direction Elias's storyline specifically went in, so yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Then I also finished The Tenant of Wildfell by Brontë. Gave this 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. Definitely a new favorite classic. I loved the characters. I found them to be fascinating and fun to read about. I loved the main character, Helen Graham, was incredibly strong in a way that I really could connect to and enjoy. It wasn't just a fierceness that she was trying to prove she was as good as a man, like I feel like a lot of books tend to do nowadays. Not that that's bad if you're into that, but sometimes it gets a little exhausting. Like, why can't it be a woman who's strong being a woman, if that makes sense? So I really enjoyed her perspective and really enjoyed that she wasn't perfect, but she was clearly a very good person and a very strong person. Again, I'll go more into depth in my wrap up with this. I think I actually might even do a spoiler review just because I have so many thoughts about this book and it's so easy to get into areas in this book that are spoilery, so I think I might end up doing that. So look forward to that if I do end up doing it, but that probably won't come till like September because I have the next several weeks planned. So anyway, then I technically got home yesterday morning. Today is Wednesday the 14th, and I started a book right after I finished the Tenant of Wildfell, which I finished on my way home from Michigan. During the last few hours of flight, I did start my next book, and that was The Joy-Luck Club, and I just barely finished this literally like 10 minutes ago, so I won't share too in-depth thoughts because I'm still processing. I did really like it. I think I'd probably give it a 4 stars. It was good. I could definitely see people finding it boring. It's definitely more of a slice of life, character-driven type story. If you don't know, this basically follows a group of women who have the Joy-Luck Club. It's these 4 Chinese women who basically play mahjong and talk to each other about their lives. That's kind of like the foundation for all the stories in this. It's not quite what the story is about, but basically this book follows them. They kind of tell their story to some extent a little bit, and then their daughters also tell their stories, and you're able to see kind of that transition between generations as these Chinese women have immigrated to America and their daughters have grown up here, and kind of that loss of tradition, that loss of understanding. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I almost feel like I might say I liked this a little bit more than My Name is Asher Lev, just because I felt like there was a little more of a hopefulness to this book. That being said, I still really enjoyed My Name is Asher Lev. They just had similar themes, which is why I'm comparing them a little bit, but anyway, yeah, it was really good. I don't have to, but I plan to write a full review on Goodreads for this, which I don't usually do, but I did receive this through a Goodreads giveaway, and so I feel like I should, as a thank you for the publishers for sending this to me and being so kind as to do that. Alright, changing the angle again for this last second, just because my hand's just struggling, but anyway, then I did also start another book on audio. That was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. This is for defense. Oh, I guess I didn't mention what the other books were for, what challenges. Torch Against the Night was for A History of Magic, to read a fantasy. Tenant of Wildfell Hall was for Ancient Runes, which was to read a book written in past tense. And then the Joy Luck Club was for, I think it was Defense Against the Dark Arts, read a book that's black under the dust jacket, and I just counted the spine being black like that as qualifying. And then this last one is for Defense Against the Dark Arts, for the E, which was to read the first book you think of right when you read this. And so that book was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, like I mentioned, and I am really enjoying it so far. I'm only like 34 pages in. It's only like 250 pages, so I'm sure I can finish it fairly quickly. I have like 6 hours left in the audiobook, so I listened to it on a faster speed, so it won't be quite that 6 hours, but I'm gonna kind of take my time with it, just because of my last 2 books, I don't really want to listen to either of them on audiobook. I think I'd rather physically read them, so I'll probably take my time with this audiobook just so I have it to listen to throughout the month as long as possible. So I don't know when I'll finish it. It might take me a couple weeks, but that's okay, even though it's pretty short. Okay, maybe like a week. We'll see how it goes. And I don't know what I'm going to read next. I think I'm gonna sleep on it because it's a little late, and see how I feel tomorrow, because I have either a middle grade-ish sci-fi or a classic that I could read, so we'll see what I'm in the mood for tomorrow. But I'm gonna go to sleep and turn this off so I'm not talking and interrupting my brother's trying to fall asleep. So hey guys, so it is actually the next day after my previous clip, and I just wanted to give you a quick update because I ended up finishing Dangerous by Shannon and Hale. And I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it about 3 stars. It was really, really good, super fascinating, interesting story, one that's very unique, I felt like, compared to other science fiction stories I've read. Granted, I haven't read a ton, but it did feel very unique. However, the reason it wasn't like 4 or 5 stars was because of the pacing primarily. I felt like the first half was very rushed. I almost feel like this book should have been turned into a duology, so that we could get more fleshed out in the first half. The second half was a lot better, but the first half I felt like it was very rushed. I felt like I was being pulled along with these characters rather than going along willingly, if that makes sense. I got lost at some points as to how we got to certain places because it just happened so fast. And I felt like it got to this point where we were just kind of like, yeah, and they trained together for a while, but it didn't like specify how long or really go into much detail on this training that the character, the main team, was going through. I don't want to go into details because spoilers, but it made it so like I felt like the main character had met these people at the beginning and now knew them very well because she had spent a lot of time with them, but as the reader, I didn't know them at all. Like, I still felt like I didn't know them. I struggled a little bit with the romance just because it started off feeling like it was very, like, it was kind of that angsty teenage romance while recognizing that they're teenagers and hormonal, and that's why they're having this romance. And towards the end, it went back to that a little bit, but throughout the middle, it felt like it was taking itself more seriously than it did at the beginning. So, if that makes sense. Like, it felt like it was an angsty romance in the very beginning, that angsty teenage romance that didn't take itself too seriously, recognized that it was a teenage romance, and then in the middle it kind of became a little more serious, and I was like, that's very insta-lovey, I don't know if I like that. And then towards the end it kind of switched gears back to, like, even the main characters, like, when we first met, I wasn't in love with him, it was more lust, attraction, hormones, and I recognize also that I'm a teenager and that I can't feel that ongoing attraction as easily because I have those missing connections in my brain kind of a thing. But she is like, but I do feel more like I like him than just being attracted to him, which I appreciated that she put that in there. But anyway, it was just a little insta-lovey for me. One thing I did really like in this was that the parents were involved. They actually went and she actually went and told her parents and asked for their help. And I loved that because I was like, it just drives me crazy when the parents are just kind of like ignored in the story and like the kids won't tell their parents anything, and I'm like, that's not, you're still a teenager. Like, anyway, so I really liked that aspect. But yeah, so it was good. Definitely like entertained me a lot, but just not like the best book ever, especially by Shannon Hale. I definitely liked like The Goose Girl and Princess Academy a little bit better. So now I'm going to be picking up Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy. I'm so excited to re-enter Hardy's world and read this. I've just read like the preface, so not far at all, but I'm planning on reading this, and it's the last book. I mean, I'm still working on AJ Fikry on audio, but between that one and this one, these are the last two books I need to finish for my NEWTs, which is super exciting. So hopefully I'll be able to finish it pretty quickly so that I can possibly read a couple other classics before the end of the month for the Classicsathon, and maybe they'll apply for some of the NEWTs challenges. We'll see. I'll see what I can find. But anyway, I also really quick wanted to show you, I finally in the mail, I ordered these couple weeks ago, and it said once it would ship it would take 5 to 8 days to get to me, and it's been well over 8 days, but it's okay. Finally got them today, of course, right after I emailed them and asked about it. But anyway, I knew that was going to happen too as soon as I emailed them. But so I got 2 books from Book Depository, both of which I'm so excited about. So first of all, I got Spinning Silver by n.e.w.t.s. This is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. I read Uprooted by n.e.w.t.s earlier this year. Loved it. And I've heard really good things about this one as well. I also got it in a matching cover to my Uprooted. In fact, I'll show you really quick. See, they have that matching style of cover, which I wanted. So super fun, and I'm excited to read this. Like, so excited. I really hope I end up liking it as much as I liked Uprooted, because I loved that book. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. And then I also picked up Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen in the Penguin English Library editions, which I'm not one where I want to necessarily collect every Penguin English Library edition, but I'd like a few, and I have like a huge collection of all of Jane Austen's novels, but I don't love the cover. And also when I'm reading Jane Austen, I'm probably gonna keep that because probably in the future I kind of have this goal to like read all of Jane Austen's books in a row, and I think I'll use that book to do it at some point. Like, I think I'm going to read them all individually first, and then someday after I've read them all, I'll reread them all, just all through that book, because I think it would be fun. We'll see if I ever actually do that, but I'd like to try. But I really wanted individual copies of Jane Austen's work just so that I can carry them around a little easier. And these are only like $7 on Book Depository, so I'm just gonna kind of slowly snag them as I read them, basically, but I have really been interested in Northanger Abbey for some reason recently, so I thought I'd start with this one, since it's one that I have been interested in, and I'm excited to pick it up. I have read 2 Jane Austen's novels before, 2.5, I guess. I read Pride and Prejudice and Emma, and then I read half of Sense and Sensibility, but then I got distracted and never ended up finishing it, unfortunately. I did really like what I read of it, I just got distracted. So anyway, but this one seems really fascinating and fun, and so I think I'm going to pick this up hopefully soon. We'll see. I've been kind of in a Jane Austen mood recently, so, which I haven't read a Jane Austen in years. I think when I read half of Sense and Sensibility, that was probably my junior or senior year of high school, which would have been 3 or 4 years ago. So it's about time I read another Jane Austen, I think. So anyway, that's the update. I will see you again whenever I finish AJ Fikry or Under the Greenwood Tree, whatever happens first. Hey guys, I have finished another book. I finished The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. Really enjoyed it. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And mostly it wasn't a 5 just because it didn't like blow my mind or anything, but it was so sweet. We basically just follow AJ's life from a couple years after his wife's death and on. It's just beautiful. I absolutely loved it. The narrator for the audiobook was awesome, and his voice was definitely what I would picture AJ Fikry's voice sounding like. So it was really awesome, and I just love it. It definitely had that whimsical, fun, book about books kind of feel, just making you fall back in love with reading. Granted, AJ Fikry is a bit of a book snob, but he's aware of it. The characters were wonderful. They were so easy to get attached to for me. The writing just made it so easy to get to know them. And despite its short length, I just fell in love with it. So that was great. Still working on Under the Greenwood Tree. I only have like 50 pages left, so I should finish in the next couple of days. Maybe today. We'll see what life brings me. But I am really enjoying this. I'm enjoying it better than I did at first. I think I struggled with it at first mostly because it wasn't what I was expecting. It started off focusing on this group of musicians, and I was expecting it to go right into the love story, and it took some time to really get into the love story. My one big complaint about this book is I feel like I barely know the female character. I don't understand her motives. I don't understand the way she thinks. Right now, she just seems to be there to look pretty and be the love interest. So we'll see if the rest of the book ends up changing that, if we are able to get to know her better. She just seems a little shallow, unfortunately. But, again, hopefully I'll get more into it. It's definitely still good. I still love Hardy's writing, and a lot of the musicians, and even there's Mr. Dewey, who's his family is very much focused on as his son is the male in the love story. He and his wife are super fun to follow. They just have this cute relationship where, they're middle-aged, so they've been married a long time, but you can tell they still really care about each other, and it's super cute. Anyway, so I will update you in the next clip on my feelings about this, and then we'll see what time of the month it is, and if I'm going to end up picking up another book before the end of the month or not, but you'll find out soon enough. Hey guys, so final update. I have finished Under the Greenwood Tree by Thomas Hardy and have completed my NEWTs, which is super exciting. I ended up enjoying this. I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. Not the best of Hardy's works. It was definitely not as dramatic as a lot of the other ones. It also has just the main female character specifically just really kind of bothered me. Honestly, the main male character also had some qualities that bothered me that I'll probably go into more in my wrap-up. But basically, I felt like Dick, the main male character, was very naive in a lot of ways and childish, and I felt like beyond that I didn't really get to know him, beyond the fact that he liked fancy and seeing his kind of obsessiveness over it, which was a little much for me. And then for Fancy, she was just a little bit shallow And I felt like I did appreciate she recognized her shallowness and wanted to work past it, but it was just an imperfection she had. But I still thought it was a cute book. Definitely, if you end up reading this, go into it with the idea that it is very lighthearted. It's not like Hardy's other works where there's more tragic elements and intensity in those books. This one definitely was a lot more lighthearted, as I said. But like I said, 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't hate it, but it was just kind of enjoyable. But it wasn't mind-blowing in any way. And yeah, so anyway, did finish it though, finished my nudes. As you may be able to tell, maybe you can't, I am back at school, so I'm going to be getting used to my new routine with school and everything. Ugh, that white thing is just throwing off the white balance so bad. Anyway, so I probably will just end the vlog here. If I end up finishing another book before the end of the month for either Classicsathon or n.e.w.t.s, I'll let you know. I still have like a week, so I could, but because I'm starting school, I'm not going to put very much pressure on myself. So basically, n.e.w.t.s was great. I'm glad I did it and was successful. And Classicsathon, I'm glad that I added another classic on top of the Tenant of Wildfell Hall because I just felt even better about that. Yeah, so we'll just shut this off again. Maybe there will be a clip after this. If not, then you'll know that I didn't finish another book. So that is it, and I will see you next time. Bye!